God is looking for restoration. God says, I'm not. He didn't tell Jeffrey and say, Jeffrey, I'm the original reliever. He says, I'm the original restorer. We don't like restoration because restoration takes time. It's not an instant. It is a process. Here's something that you need to know about restoration. Something that tells about your personality. It tells about the way that you serve God. You will only engage in restoration to the degree to which you trust the restorer. You want to see His work. As you walk through the car show, you want to see some of the jobs that the guy's done. You want to see some of the pictures on the wall. This is the kind of work I do. This, if you take me on as your restorer, this is the quality of work that you can expect. I want you to know there's a lot of quality work around here. If you start hearing the testimonies of where God found us, of what we were like before that we met Jesus, the things that were in our heart, the habits that were in our lives, the way that we acted and treated people. But there came along a restorer. There came along one Jesus of Nazareth that redeemed me by His blood and by His name and with His Spirit. And I have been restored. You have to know His work and believe that you get what you pay for. Let me explain to you, because this isn't something you'll catch on. If you take your jalopy, you know what jalopy is? An old car, one that's fallen into disrepair, but some men travel all over America into rural America, and they take a trailer behind them and they find an old 53 Chevrolet that's sitting out behind some man's barn, and they ask him if they can buy it. And if the man many times doesn't know what its worth is, they may get it at a bargain, or he may have some idea, and they buy it, and then they take it back to the garage. And one of the first things when you take your car, your jalopy, you take it to the restorer, the first question that he's going to ask you is, do you just want to shine her up on the outside so it looks good to the public? Or do you want to make her show quality so it can go before the judges stand? You want to just do a spit and shine on the outside? We can just paint it, put some fancy wheels on it, and buff the rust spots out, and we can do a good paint job. And everybody, when you drive by, they go, ooh, that's a cool car. Or do you want it to be show quality so that you can drive it to the inspection stand, and that the judges stand before the judges, and the judges look it over and say, all right, this is a show quality. This is best of show in its class. Do you want surface restoration? Here's the question. Or do you want to take her down to the frame? Now you have to be careful about your answer, because true restoration is time and materials. True restoration is time and materials. And you can't get an exact cost. Everybody wants to know, how much does it cost? You can't get an exact cost. When you pull up with that rusty bucket of bolts on that trailer and you unload it at the restorer's shop, and if your answer is, I want to take her down to the frame, then you don't know what it's going to cost. Because as you start disassembling and taking things apart, you start finding, Brother Wesley, things wrong that you didn't know was wrong until you started disassembling it. The scripture says that our heart is capable of having wickedness and having things inside of it. That there's no way that you know what's in your heart until you let God start disassembling your life. And when you see, you have to be careful. You don't know how much time it's going to take, so you can't demand. You can't walk in and say, I want my car back. Because there's no promise. You don't know how long it's going to take. The only way that you can give an approximation of time and cost is when you lose your identity. When you take that car in and you go, this is my precious. I found this car. There's only 10 like it in all of America, let's say. And I want it to be restored back to its pristine condition. And you say, this thing is very valuable to me. And the restorer says, so what do you want to do? You say, let's take it down to the frame. Let's completely, totally restore it. And he says, okay. He says, but you might not want to come back next week. You know why, Sister Ivy? Because that thing, when it is disassembled and it is scattered all over that garage, it doesn't look like a car anymore. Before you can start restoration, you got to lose your identity. You got to not be. You go walk in, you go, where's my beautiful car? And they go, it's there, and some of it's over there, and those little pieces right there, that's part of it right there. I was Because of the Times, and I sat in the second row the first night, because they had the young people, the PKs, the preacher's kids, had come, and they were sitting in a chair in a row in front of me. I was in the first row of the seats, but they had a whole row. And as the service progressed, there was a certain point where, where the music reached a crescendo. It reached a place to where I would have normally got up and done all of my extravagant worship that I love to do. And when I wanted to do that, I was not only physically hampered, but I felt that God wouldn't give me permission. And there's young people that are worshiping extravagantly. And I am sitting there going, I don't like this, because they're going to think I'm some old codger that's just lazy. And I don't know how to worship. Because see, I've been pretty bold. Me and Sister Barbara went there a year before last, and sitting in front of me was a whole line of young Spanish guys. I tapped them on the shoulder. I said, careful, guys. This old guy's going to out-worship you. I'm going to worship you under those seats tonight. And they looked at me like, right. Yeah. But before the night was over, they were begging for mercy. Because the old guy was showing them what it was like. But God says to me, I said, God, I can't do much, but shouldn't I do what I can? And God said, no, you sit here because I'm giving you a new identity. Now, to be honest with you, God hasn't explained to me yet what that means. Except that He said, for the time being, it is not your job to get up and to all this extravagant worship. One of the things is because you have made that. That's where you get your self-worth and your self-esteem, is that everybody knows that you are an extravagant worshiper. And so to get this process of restoration, if you're going to take it down to the frame, then